I'll be honored to read.
Madam Chairman, thank you for the opportunity of sharing some thoughts with this legislative body. It's been a long time since I've been in the legislative halls of Nassau County. I guess it goes back 36 years ago, and I walked into the wrong building because that's what we used to in the olden times hold the hearings. Let me first say that I don't think there is any greater service than public service, any more service that is necessary, and any more service that is more difficult, because you have the personalities, you have the community's interest at heart. And I want to commend you. I spent 18 years in the Senate. I must say to you, the most fulfilling times I had was being a county legislator and a supervisor in the town of Hempstead. There you got to do things for people and make a difference. And I know that each and every one of you, regardless of political party, are really in this and devoted to the public interest. I just wanted to share that with you. I don't think there's any more noble calling. You certainly don't do it for the enrichment. This job does not pay you adequately. It is not enough. And you really should be better compensated because you're really taking from your time and making a great sacrifice. So thank you for the sacrifices that each and every one of you make on behalf of your communities and on behalf of the people of Nassau. I'd like to share with you something that goes back to my freshman term in the United States Senate. I got into quite a controversy with Senator Bob Dole. At that time, he was chairman of the Finance Committee. He went on to be the majority leader and a great leader of our party and of our nation. And the issue was over a principle. And that principle was whether or not industrial revenue bonds issued by the local development authorities should be abolished. Bob wanted to abolish them. He felt that they interfered with the free economy. And I maintained then with properly applied industrial revenue bonds in the role of the IDAs were an effective tool, particularly in distressed areas, to bring about economic regeneration and jobs. As a freshman senator, it's pretty tough to take on the leader of your party. But I did because I felt very strongly that the local government, that the integrity of those agencies, the stewards of the industrial revenue bonds, and that the programs would aid communities seeking to rebuild their future. Communities that we have that are depressed, such as, I won't go into them, but they're here, and we know them. And I don't want to mention their names and seem to be denigrating them, because I'm not. But there are communities that need incentives to encourage private development, to make it possible to create jobs, and yes, in the future, tax revenues. I said that the personal integrity, and I fought with Bob, of those who would be the stewards of the industrial revenue bonds would ensure that the programs would aid those communities seeking to rebuild. He went on and told me, well, yeah, don't believe it. That's part of the old political clubhouse, and there's going to be manipulation. In those days, we fought over dirty bookstores, whether or not money was being used. I recall it like it was yesterday to promote these. Oh, stop it. He didn't look at other things. But that was the battle we took on, and we won it. I said I had confidence that the industrial revenue bonds and the tax incentives offered by the industrial development agencies would be carefully reviewed and scrutinized and open for public inspection and the microscope of the critical press. And I believe that. I believe that for decades. And then we come to propose super block in Long Beach, a piece of property that is one of the hottest, best pieces, 6 acres on the ocean, under the community that has turned around, and where people are looking to develop and seeking to spend money. A community in which a real estate giant spent $53,999,000 for that 6 acres. Without much as a stick 'em up announcement, the IDA in 3 days is about to rob the city of Long Beach, the taxpayers of the county, and the taxpayers of the school district, and grant this developer a over $100 million tax abatement over the next 20 years. The IDA will shortly vote their approval for a tax break on the oceanfront luxury apartments that every hard-working middle-class homeowner in the school district, in the city, and in the county will be helping to subsidize. We will, if this takes place, be subsidizing a company that claims to manage $7 billion worth of property, a company whose executive has come before and said we can start the construction within 90 days of the approval of a variance given to them by the zoning board to increase the density by 122 units, so that it's 522 units, and to go up an additional 5 stories, making it the tallest structure ever constructed, 17 stories high in the city of Long Beach. Today, the legislative body has been put on notice as to what's taking place. The NASA IDA is about to pass this legislation Wednesday and give approval to this incredible giveaway of taxpayers' money. Let me tell you, it's the taxpayers not only in that school district but throughout the county who will be subsidizing this corporation. When they came before the zoning board, they said give us approval and within 90 days we will construct. 90 days of that approval. They never said they needed a penny. And if one would take the time to read the zoning board record, you would see that they said, we are ready to start. We've got the money. And oh, by the way, we'll only make 13% interest if you give us 13% on our investment, if you give us the ability to go up. Now they come before the IDA and they say, we can't build it unless you give us a $105 million tax subsidy. And when they started out, they wanted $129 million. Now they cut it down to $105 million. Let me suggest to you that it's time to take action. It's time to investigate and look into what the IDA is about to do. Enrich a rich developer at the expense of our taxpayers. I hope this legislative body looks into this, puts a halt to this, undertakes an investigation to get to the bottom of what changed since the time they came before the zoning board and said, give us this and we will build. And now they come before the IDA and they say, we can't build unless you give us this giveaway. A giveaway of over $100 million. I leave it to you. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to attempt to answer them.
Legislator Ford. Thank you, Senator, for coming down and addressing this issue. And just as a, to add on to this, what's very interesting is that hundreds upon hundreds, if not close to 1,000, residents came out to 2 hearings to protest this tax giveaway. The sad fact is that this developer is claiming that without this tax incentive, they will not develop this parcel of land. We find it hard to believe that somebody would invest $50 million and not build on it, and they would just allow $50 million to sit in a bank account or sit on this land for the next 20 years. Added to this is just a few blocks down from where this location is. The Hebrew Academy of Long Beach has moved into the 5 towns. that property has been sold to a developer who has proposed to the city that they too would like to build 2 15-story, which would equal 17 stories apartment houses as well. So we know that this property really and truly is very viable, it's very desirable, and I'm sure that these people, they did get a very generous variance. So what it's going to happen is that despite the fact that our school board and our school district has come out resoundingly against granting this tax incentive, the county executive and myself on the county level have also come out and said do not grant this pilot agreement. Unfortunately, the city of Long Beach has gone along with it, so we feel that we are going to lose this fight. But if anybody feels free, if you'd like to send a letter to the IDA, please do so on behalf of your residents, because you're going to pick up the tab, because they are not going to be paying taxes, or they're going to be paying relatively low taxes, probably about less than $1 million a year on this property, on luxury apartments, on retail space, and we're going to be the ones that have to make up the difference. But I thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Legislator Fort. And I might say that the IDA hangs its hat on this incredible, incompetent economic report done by a company located up in Saratoga Springs. They paid $25,000 for it. If you took their assumptions, you can see right off the bat on page 11, they assume that the city of Long Beach is only going to raise their taxes 0.12%. That's 0.12, you know what that is? That's less than 0.2%. Well, of course, this year alone, and this study came out in May, this is what they're hanging their hat on, and they say the property will be vacant for the next 20 years. Well, it won't be vacant for the next 20 years, but even if it was vacant, they increased the tax rate this year by 8.2%. It throws this thing off by $500,000 there. They do the same thing with the school district. They go 0.12. The fact of the matter is the school district increased their taxes by 1.8 this year, and in the coming years, you know it's going to be at least 2%, if not more. They do the same thing with the county. It is absolutely fallacious to think that they're not going to sell it, and it's based on this. Nowhere in all of the proceedings has the developer come in and demonstrated that he needs this money in order to build the project. Nowhere. It's absurd. And I have to tell you, if you allow it to take place, I think it's really something that is against the interest of the people and should become involved. Every one of you. Absolutely. It is scurrilous. And the county executive should look into who is on that IDA. You have 2 union representatives. That's all they care about, union jobs. Now they demonstrate that the cost in their studies of building this, that the construction workers will get $100 million. Well, let me say this to you. If you go non-union, you save 20 to 30%. They're going union. You know why? Because they got the 2 votes lined up on the IDA from the union representatives. That's a fact. We have a public hearing. If you're going to have the public hearing Wednesday, all the seats will be taken up by guys wearing their union shirts. In the city of Long Beach, the residents had to wait to the end to speak. They all spoke against, and hundreds of people who did not live in the school district and the community spoke in favor. They created an atmosphere of intimidation. So they got 2 of their representatives on the IDA. They've absolutely sold out. It is wrong. And if they could pay 30% more or 20% more for union workers, that means that's $20 to $30 million more that they're paying. Why? Because they're getting a $105 million subsidy. They're going to make $75 million on that deal. I don't think they should be making it on the back of the taxpayer. I hope I don't have to call Bob Dole and tell him, hey Bob, you were right, I was wrong. It's the political clubhouses that are still running the process. But I want to thank you for your attention, for your time. Presiding Officer Gonzalez, thank you. And I want to say one thing else about your colleague. And I would say, regardless of political party, she is a tremendous fighter. This thing would have passed 2 years ago when the first IDA was scheduled to hold a hearing. And you know where they were going to hold the hearing? At the public library on 10 days' notice. But Denise Ford stood up and said, wait a minute, what's going on here? Then the IDA folks said, oh, the city doesn't want it to be held at City Hall because after all, it's the IDA that's making the decision. Baloney. Baloney. The city fathers had already gotten their own in a backroom deal and had a host agreement to do this. They didn't like the fact that hundreds and hundreds of people showed up, and hundreds never got to speak. They left because they couldn't even get a chair at the second hearing. That's the kind of nonsense that's going on. And when the IDA says, oh, our economic report says it's good for the county, if you really read the last 20 pages of it, they just tell you the jobs that are in the school district, the jobs that are in the county, the jobs that, I mean, it's incredible. They pay $25,000 for junk from someone from Saratoga who doesn't know a darn thing about the community. They must have picked this guy out specially for this deal and told him how to arrive at it. Thank you very much.
Senator, just quickly, Senator, Legislator Dunn here.
Yeah.
Just the previous, two and a half decades ago, the county executive then, Thomas Galata, 60 veteran leaders, and then myself, we flew down to Washington, D.C., and you held a hearing with then Congressman Glenn McGrath, urging the Veterans Administration to open a VA outpatient clinic here in Nassau County. And because of your leadership and your efforts, we were successful. We brought 60,000 letters. If you remember, just carrying them in, it was like a miracle on 34th Street. Piles and piles of letters came in. And we won because of your leadership. Now I'm sitting on the other side of a table and listening to yourself. And I got to tell you, we don't live in Long Beach, but we stand shoulder to shoulder with you against this IDA issue. So I just want you to know it's not just the Long Beach people that support you.
Well, thank you, but let me say this to you. In my prepared remarks, which I deviated from my talk about Levittown, the citizens of Levittown are going to pick up because the taxes that would be paid to the county aren't going to be paid. You're going to get a tiny little fraction of those taxes. It's ridiculous. They're going to, but by their own statement, they'd make 13%. Now they come in and say, well, we need help, otherwise we can't build it. You know why? They found a perfect scam. Bring in 300 union people to stay there, and then say, you'll support this construction. Then you get them to pressure the 2 union representatives on the IDA, and then you got 3 others, who knows? They're collapsing, and they base it on an economic study that an 8th grader could do better on. If you read the last 20 pages, it's nothing but a recitation of salaries. It is nonsense, and guess what? They're saying that for 20 more years, you know, this property hasn't been developed for 35 years. It's been tied up in litigation, etc. The city owned the property for years. They kind of screwed it up. Now, when it finally got sold, all right, a developer comes in and bids $53,999,000. Now, the same developer, iStar, he now operates under another name, Wayfarer. Wayfarer says, I can't build it. I need this taxes. We're all paying. And I just think it's a disgrace. And it should be investigated, and it should be stopped. It's wrong. This is one of the biggest highway robberies I have ever seen. And to think that it would take place in my county, I can't. And by the way, you know who I represent? Nobody other than the interest of the people, the taxpayers of the county. And I've had plenty of people approach me saying, would you like to represent us? Such as the builder of this project. Came in, said, Senator, would you like to represent? I said, if you had other projects someplace else, but I certainly can't represent you. So I've had people approach me. all trying to get me to drop my opposition. I oppose it because it's the wrong thing, and the public will be paying.
I think they can still do it with union workers, but just take less of a profit.
Okay, listen,
That's-
thank you, Senator.
Thank you.